high street isn't dead. It's under pressure. Despite closures, over 80% of UK retail sales still involve physical stores, even in an online-first world. Retail survives by evolving the experience, not abandoning the high street.
Right, well, welcome back, everybody. It's Elite Business Live. Thank you for tuning in if you're just joining us or catching up. And a massively warm welcome to our audience here in St. Paul's, in the UK's capital, right here in London town. I'm Oli Barrett, and this is a very hot topic, right? So we've got an all-star cast. Do you know, something I almost never get our panel to do is introduce themselves with a quick one-liner, but I think even entrepreneurs need to keep on top of their game, because I know you as the founders of great brands like June, as a secret millionaire, Mike, as someone who's advised world's leading retail brands, as another creator of literally a household name, and of course, Amy. But how do you introduce yourselves, Mike?
I built a business globally, and now I build businesses with other people, and I build homes.
And you build homes as well. I forgot that. Yeah. But you sold your business very successfully, I know, but you were in the business of advising some of the world's leading brands, right?
Yeah. So we were tracking shoppers and feeding that back, but it wasn't what did happen yesterday from EPOS or till data. It was why that happened and what didn't happen that could have happened that they missed out on.
Yeah, right. So it's those sort of insights. Arjun, welcome. We love Free Soul. Thank you very much for creating it. Tell us how you introduce yourself.
So I suppose I just say that I'm building the home of women's well-being, and that essentially is a destination for women to access the inspiration, the products, and the supplements they need to feel healthier.
Yeah, love that. Thank you. And Free Soul, of course, is the business. We've seen it on many high streets through Boots, and other stores are available. Jackie Norton, you have advised some of the leading retailers in the UK. How do you introduce yourself these days?
Well, with great difficulty, to be quite honest, because I've had, as many women do, a very squiggly career. So I've done many things, the first of which was working at Marks & Spencer's, Burton Group, Arcadia, and various other fashion retail tailors who flourished in the 90s, not so much in the 2000s. Yeah. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And since that time, I've had a very eclectic time working in corporate finance, working in brand innovation, building my own brand consultancy, advising consumer-facing brands how to understand their customers better. One of the great things I did was work with Goodwood, with the Duke of Richmond, and develop that brand into a very great destination place. So it's been squiggly, been interesting.
Right, well, speaking of squiggly, we're going to continue racing around on that Goodwood theme. Daniel, creator of literally another household name, high street brand. Tell us more. How would you intro yourself?
I guess I'm a shoe dog. I mean, I've been doing shoes for 50 years, which is a really long time. As a manufacturer, as an importer, I know a lot about shoes. In 1992, we set up June, which is a brand, a footwear and accessories brand. It's an exciting time for us because international is the big opportunity for us to try and become a global brand. But yeah, look, the high street, which is what we're going to discuss, which is really exciting, is tough at the moment. But yeah, there are lots of opportunities.
All right, so we're going to focus on, let's make the question as pithy as we can. And we'll ask everyone here and online. Do you feel that the UK high street is dying? Yes or no? Please vote now. And I'm going to ask all of you for a pithy take on that. It doesn't boil down to a yes or no, but if I was to push you yes or no, and we'll see how you're voting in a second. But Amy, where would you start with that?
I mean, obviously, I think the opportunity is online. I think there is some opportunity on the high street, but it's not what it used to be. The footfall's not there. Like, I think you've got to have a real reason for existing on the high street.
And I want to come up with your review at the end of this panel. Have you considered putting a must-have ideas on a UK high street?
We have considered it, yes.
Single biggest thing that put you off?
It's expensive, and I'm not sure what it's got to offer something that online can't, otherwise it's just an expensive website with walls.
Provocative. Right, all right. Arjun, yes or no, dead or alive?
Alive for me. I think it really depends. A bit of a contrarian view, but the high street used to be about distribution, right? But the internet changed that and offered distribution in a more ubiquitous, democratized way. So you can buy sugar on Amazon if you want to. You don't even have to go to Tesco. But what the high street now offers, if done correctly, is an experiential value add to the consumer.
That's what we want to explore.
Exactly.
Right, I want to really unpick.
I really think the likes of, let's take Boots as an example, investing in their stores, providing more reasons for customers to actually go there, is value in itself. So no, I don't think it's dead. I think it's evolving.
Right, Jackie, kick us off with our thinking.
Well, for me, it's definitely transitioning. It's always going to be there. It's not going to go away. They're not going to fill it with flats. And people need a reason to go out. But what it's got to offer is something very, very different. And that's what we're going to have a little chat about, I guess.
Well, I saw in Reading just this weekend, June in very rude health in Reading, for example. Daniel, but dead or alive?
I think it's alive. I think we're finding actually more people coming into stores because the whole experience of feeling, touching the product, you just can't get online. I think it depends on the product. But if it's a product, a fashion product or something like a shoe, you really want to feel that leather. You want to feel the softness. Yeah. So we are finding that people are coming back. Having said that, I think it does depend. I mean, some high streets are really buoyant, really doing well. Others are really suffering. And I think that's maybe what we'll come to. It's just the cost of opening a store now that Amy has alluded to is just very, very expensive.
Right. And that
now, I won't talk about our rating system, but it's terrible in terms of trying to encourage people to open stores.
Right. Mike, you've given some very blunt advice to some very big retailers. Dead or alive?
It is dying. I mean, the numbers never lie. 31,000 shops have closed in the last 2 years. Business is dead, if you like. But I don't think it's happening to them. I think it's assisted dying and suicide because of their failure to change with the needs of shoppers.
So be even blunter. What have they failed to do?
Arj talked about destination and reasons to come. They've failed to update their offer, their experiences. So an example I was given a few months ago was, young influencers will go to Harrods and they'll bung together their credit cards to buy a £10,000 handbag, and then they'll head out in London, take lots of shots of it, and get their social media up. Then they'll take it back and get their money back. Now, they try everything they can to stop that, as opposed to why don't you create an environment in store where they could do some influencer stuff and get that brand out there? Why don't you create more awareness, even more demand for that brand by facilitating? Don't fight it, flow with it.
Interesting.
And I think the failure to change and trying to stop people doing what they want to do is killing them.
Right, so on that, where are your heads at in the room? Let's have a look. Do you feel the UK high street is dying? Let's see what you've said so far. Wow. Okay, so we've got to do some cheering up to do here, Jackie.
Oh dear, that's a bit sad, isn't it?
87% of our audience say that they feel that yes, it is dying.
Well, I mean, it's completely understandable, because you walk down any high street, especially if you've been in an area for a long period of time, and you've seen different businesses come and go and shut up. What's happening at the moment? A lot of hospitality businesses are shutting down. Cost of restaurants, people aren't going out. We see all the charity shops. We see all the chicken shops open. We see all the barbers coming along. We see all the charity shops, and we see some of our favourite brands, particularly over the last 10 years, have disappeared. And we're not seeing new things coming. So it's perfectly understandable that from that point of view, people can say, yes, it's dying, because they can't see what's coming down the line.
So in that case, Jackie, let's really boil it down. When a physical retail experience really works, what is it doing beyond the simple act of selling someone something? What does it really boil down to?
I think it's the whole experience. I think people like to socialize, they like to go into a store, they like to communicate, they like to have good customer service with someone who's passionate about the product, who really smiles, and they leave the shop feeling good about themselves. So I think that element, it's very easy to talk about technology and how that's changing, but getting some of the basics right, really good customer service, a really good range of shoes, or whatever the product is, I think is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I was tempted to say, is your name Jackie there? But I'm being cheeky, because are you seriously suggesting it's a socially... They're not going to meet people, are they?
They are going... Look, a lot of people on the high... They want to go out. Yeah. They don't want to stay in on their computer all the time. Yeah. They want to get out.
Yeah, it's a human experience.
Think, there is an opportunity of getting out and going to a store. And I think some people enjoy that.
So we'll get more on this. But Jackie...
Sorry.
Well, just building really on what... That's all right, love. That's fine. I don't mind, because I've got Daniel's shoes on today.
There you are.
Yeah. So I'm feeling... And I have to be honest, I completely love these shoes.
Yes.
Why do I love these shoes? Because they fit, they're comfortable, they're a good price, they're still going after 2 years. Thank you. But I think what Daniel's really saying there, for me, it's about trust. We love brands. Brands are an emotional connection to the heart, right? So the closer your heart is to a brand, the more you love it. And when we go into a shop, we go into Daniel's shop, or we go into, say, Mint Velvet, which is popular amongst my peer group, there's a real sense of coming home. Oh, I love this shop. And the sense of going into that shop, there's the element of theatre, the products it's got. You feel excited to see the products. You trust the brand. Your experience at the sales experience is good. And you come away feeling, yes, I'm right to trust that brand. I've come out with a nice carrier bag. I'm going to go home, put my stuff on. I'm going to feel great. That is, if you like, the old-fashioned consumer experience, but it still stands up today, and we still want it. And that's what you have to provide. What you mustn't do is put in the wrong product with sales staff who couldn't give a damn in a horrible environment and have a click and collect, don't have click and collect or an easy return system, all of those things which are friction points with the consumer. But the consumer still, even though we're 2026, still want that experience, but a lot is changing around it.
All right, Jack, and we're getting raised eyebrows here from Amy, so I don't know whether that's being tempted, but I will come to you. Anything we should be adding? Because this is a powerful cocktail, I think.
Yeah, I fell out a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, with W.H. Smith's. I mean, just had a rebrand T.J. Jones. What the fuck's that about? I mean, really, honestly. It could have been predicted years ago. They were selling cigarettes. It halved in 2 years. They were selling lottery. It went online. They were doing bill payment, phone tops up. It went online. They were selling confectionery. It was reducing and predicted to keep reducing. They were selling books. That was going online. I mean, they said, what should we have done? Well, firstly, no shit, Sherlock, you should have been able to predict that was going to die. But secondly, what was growing at the time? Coffee shops were growing. They put a few token costers in there, but not properly. WeWork and co-working was growing massively. They could have created it as a destination to go to meet people, to work, to hire offices, conferencing space, and then sell some of their stationery in situ as opposed to it going online. All of that was infinitely predictable by the way that shoppers were changing and consumers were changing, and they did nothing, and it was further amplified by cost of parking rates, electricity, and so on.
Okay, so what they could have done, I get it, because Arjun, this is a journey you've been on, right? So Freesoul starts online.
Yep.
And then there comes a point where we say, right, we're heading to the high street. So I'm trying to understand how you made that calculation and what your calculation now is as to whether it was worth it.
I think the temptation with retail is to think of it in a different way to online. So people think about online businesses and physical retail businesses. But really the journey for us, having started with an online business, is to understand that different platforms, including retail, provide different value at different moments. So for us, we get a lot of reach through TikTok. That's discovery for us, and we have some sales through TikTok Shop as well. But predominantly, that's discovery. Then we have an Amazon channel. That's where people might read reviews. Then they go and trial the product from a Boots purchase on their high street because they're looking for something to do, to your point around socializing. Maybe they go out with their mom, their dad, their friends, and they buy the product. They really like it, and then they subscribe on our website. And so for us, it wasn't necessarily a decision where we're calculating, should we do online, but rather, how can we increase our investment into the customer journey? And I think framing the retail element or the high street in that way, depending on your business model, obviously, can be quite helpful, and it's certainly been helpful for us.
So I suppose the jumping forward in that journey, as you've described it, the payoff is when you learn something about your customers that you might not have learned if you hadn't taken that step into the physical space, right?
Exactly.
So what was that insight dividend?
Well, I think firstly, to build upon your point, if you are an online advertiser, to be able to get incremental reach on the likes of Meta or Amazon or Google, it's difficult. It's not always so easy, especially now with the black box that digital advertising is, to properly measure first touch impression ratios. However, if you have distribution points across the country through retail, you benefit from being able to access a more diverse group of customers. And through a diverse group of customers, you can understand more clearly what do they have in common. So in other words, what is the true heartbeat of my customer? So people up north, people down south, what do they share in common? And therefore, how can I use that to inform my NPD?
So what's a real example of what that looks like?
I think to build on Jackie's point around trust in the high street. So if you've seen a shop, grown up with a shop, such as a Boots as an example, they have pharmacists in store. There is an inherent amount of trust that Boots has built up over hundreds of years, if that is an accurate description of how long they've been around. And so leveraging your brand, not just for distribution, but for trust, is something that we've tangibly seen because we track those metrics on a monthly basis.
Yeah, okay. And I'm going to ask, because I really want to just get a sense of something, because Amy might be thinking, look, I could have told all that online. You wouldn't believe the data and analytics we've got going. What is something that you could only have discovered with boots on the ground?
Myself?
Yeah, Arjun, yeah.
Well, I think it's...
'Cause otherwise, Amy's going to stay on the fence, isn't she?
we run split tests every single day of the week, and we understand how copy can influence a conversion rate. The ability for an in-store specialist to convert a customer is infinitely more powerful. And so if you look at traffic through your aisles versus sales versus conversion rate on site, a great conversion rate for a business selling through D2C is probably around 5%, 6% if you're crushing it. What is the conversion rate of a pharmacist? Significantly higher. I don't know about you guys, but if a pharmacist tells me to go buy X, I'm buying it without hesitating.
Yeah.
That is a great funnel to be a part of.
Yeah, right. So Daniel, let's put a theory that might be on the minds of one or two of our guests, which is we're misdiagnosing the sickness here. We can say, you know, Mike would have had us sipping W.H. Smith Frappuccinos. Fine. It is about the experience. But what if it isn't? What if it is much more about rents, rates, operating costs? Well, those are very real concerns.
I think they are. I mean, the rating system in the UK is terrible. You know, what is it? Something like 75% of the rates are paid by 25% of the shops. So shops bear an unreasonable burden, and I think that is certainly destroying a lot of high streets. Because unless you've got scale, it's very, very difficult to make money. If you're a single shop or a small group of shops, the costs of operating those shops, especially now that taxes have gone up, make it very, very difficult. And I think it's interesting comparing the UK with something like Italy. Italy, there are lots of very good high streets where they have local shops. You know, the supermarkets haven't come in. They've controlled it much more carefully. They've got a lot of local traders who people really value visiting. And I think we've lost that on a lot of high streets in the UK, partly because of the costs.
So our Chancellor walks in this afternoon, Elite Business Live, says, Daniel, be as blunt as you like. What do we need to do? And you might not say it's part of government, but you might.
Well, I think there are obvious things. I think the rating system needs to be completely re-looked at so that retailers are not penalised with the level of tax that they are at the moment. That's the first thing. I think, huge on goal with this whole VAT thing. People are now going from the UK to Paris to buy their luxury goods or any goods. We had 6 airport stores. They're no longer viable. So I think, and then, we don't want to get into politics, but the whole, the cost to us of the national insurance increase was £2 million. Now that's a lot of money. And you think of the amount of sales you need to generate, the margin you need to generate just to pay that off. So
6 million.
I think, it's a lot. So I think certainly government is not really looking at retail and saying, high streets are dying, what can we do about it?
I mean, just to make this real, I think I saw a figure, I think it's 25 to 26 or 24 to 26. The average cost of rates on a high street store, I mean, this is very average, they've gone from 3,500 to 8,000. I mean, obviously for stores on Oxford Street, that's in the millions, but 3,500 to 8,000 as a percentage, that's more than double in an 18-month period. That is unsustainable. It's just not on, and we're going to see more people leaving the high street.
Absolutely, Mike.
Well, I think that, firstly, you've got to take self-responsibility because you can't rely waiting for government of whatever colour, red or blue, or even green, waiting for government to do it right, waiting for councils to do it right, waiting for the interest rate to drop, waiting for energy to come down. All of those things need to be part of a joined-up solution. But you've got to start with, what can I do? And I was interested this week to read that John Lewis has put in 800,000 into investing in AI and TikTok to create more awareness of the products that they sell and their brands. And traditional advertising, marketing through TV, magazines, we're going to upset some people, radio, is just not where it's at anymore. People aren't coming from an ad, they're being interrupted while they're doom scrolling on social media. If you are not on AI or coming up in some of those searches, if you are not on TikTok and Instagram, you are not going to get noticed. So just because that's for online doesn't mean that high street retailers shouldn't create better awareness with it.
Thank you, Mike. Well, that's why the best publishers do live events, Mike, as you know.
Exactly.
Amy, A, how convinced are you? Or re-tempted? But B, what would it take to flip that to say, actually, must-have ideas is coming to a high street near you? What do you have to be convinced of?
I think I can see the argument more for things like fashion, where you've got huge return rates and you do want to be able to feel it, you do want to be able to try it on. I think for products like ours, it's really challenging. Like the idea...
I mean, I would agree. If I was advising you, it would be a very short contract. Just say stay online.
Yeah. The argument you made around trust and going in and having that whole experience, I think you can give someone that online.
Yes, you can, because you're selling, with all due respect, a commodity. I can see it. You're demonstrating. I mean, I've bought one of your products, funnily enough, randomly the other week. Great product, and I can see how it worked online. I got it. It worked as it did on the can. Happy days. So,
right, that sounds a little bit like, no disrespect, Arjun, I can't go into Boots and start tipping some of your products down my neck and having a taste, can I?
You absolutely can. Thank you for teeing me up. We've announced our travel packs today.
What?
So we launched into 300 Tesco stores. So
Have you paid for this?
No, I haven't, but sometime soon maybe. No, I mean, I think the thing is, with regards to whether it's a commoditized product, you can't do that with a Hoover either, right? You're not going to turn it on and start cleaning Costco. But in reality, touching and feeling and just fiddling with the instrument, you get a real tangible feel for something being real, and it's the same with supplements. Yeah. I think that the recommendation, I totally hear you in that you can convert people online. I don't think it's either or, to be clear.
We've got to change. Sorry, Archie, we've got to change gear completely because we've got questions coming in. And fastest finger first. Put your hand up if you want to answer this. Do you see different shopping behaviours between younger generations versus older ones? Jackie Norton.
Absolutely. If you look at, let's take the extreme example, the boomers. They are about quality, loyalty, things they know and trust, etc. Obviously, they tend to be a bit more high street. They're not tech illiterate, but they're choosy and picky. Go to the other extreme, Gen Z, they're not interested in new established brands. They're taking all their information.
Hang on, and they're not interested in what?
Established brands so much.
Okay.
They're shopping, vintage is their place, they like secondhand, they're into sustainability, they're on TikTok and they're looking for people. So their trust comes from seeing the brand owner online, on TikTok.
Thank you, Jackie. That is refreshingly bold. Anyone take a different view? Mike?
It's more... it goes alongside it in the sense that we would always cut shoppers by shopper demographic or shopper type or age. But you also should look at mission and need state. Because if we're all in that same need state, i.e. we're running late, someone might say, there's no way I'll pay that. And you say, OK, you can get it 10 pence cheaper at Aldi, but the SO's there and it's 20% dearer. Will you go there if you're running late? So it's less about age, more about need state, more about time, convenience, and if you can capture their need state and deliver against that, you'll get shoppers of all ages.
With all due respect on that, you have to look at both of those things.
Yeah,
one does cut across another. Because
it did sound a bit, Jackie, like you're saying that younger people don't care about quality products. It sounded a bit like that.
They do, but they're going to buy their quality products on Vinted, right, because of the price. So they can get great quality products on Vinted. And they're very happy to do that. They get great quality products in St Mary's shopping, Mary's shopping shops and all the charity shops because, people are offloading their old brands and they're fantastic qualities. Because my daughter is that person. She's that shopper. She has great quality clothes and they're all second-hand. Half of them are mine.
All right, is this a bit broad brush for you, Daniel? Go on.
I think it's a bit dangerous to sort of generalise. I think, yes, certainly more young people shop online, certainly. And they are more influenced by social media, by TikTok, by Instagram. There's no doubt about that. But I think, we get a lot of young customers coming to our stores. So I think it is dangerous. Yes, the overall sort of weight is towards young people shopping online, partly because they're time short as well. Yeah. I think that's another factor.
Questions in the studio. How about in the second row here? We've got a little cluster of them here, and we'll go further back as well. If I can encourage you to be pithy, we'll appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, nice to meet you all. So I've actually just opened a shop in my local high street.
Oh, this is a bakery.
Yeah, I'm a bakery. So I heard what you said about being different in customer experience. So I do a Subway-style bakery. So the customer customizes their cupcakes fully. They pick their base, their fillings, their toppings, exactly what the customer wants. We've noticed that our footfall's gone down, so we've added cookie dough to the bakery, and then now we're adding cheesecakes. My footfall is still down. I've had customers talking about parking prices. There's so many shops that have closed down. What can I do to get customers in my shop?
Great question. Who wants to have a go? Mike, Archie?
I'll have a crack. I think part of this is tapping into and renting demand versus generating demand. And so what you've described are product features, which all sound delicious, by the way. I hope you have samples. I'm coming right that way. But the other half of this is about generating demand. So you must have walked across London and seen these like coffee shops in Soho where there are queues going out the door. That's because they've generated demand, not because the footfall was inherently there that they've then diverted into their store. So I think the question is not necessarily how can I tap into more traffic from the high street, but rather how can I increase my brand's top of funnel awareness so that I'm actually driving people into my store regardless of the location.
Right.
So there's a chain called...
Get that framing. I think we should risk some ideas, though. Has anyone got any ideas?
Are you on TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok and Instagram are absolutely crucial. I think the more you get engagement there, the more people really get excited about coming in.
All right, but what's the idea? Come on,
Can I just ask you, is it the change in football because there's parking charges have come in that weren't there?
I think it's maybe the winter. It's quite cold.
Oh, the winter.
In the winter.
Okay.
It's cold,
Okay. Okay, I would think about, well, what people want if they're coming to get some of your stuff, like somebody like me is always running late. They want it quick. So I would have a way for they can pre-order and they can just whip in and get it very quickly, right? And do that as a special promotion. Your first one comes with a free coffee or something like that. So that I would offer them something.
All right, let's have more. Mike, Amy?
Well, if your catchment is limited in terms of the footfall in, expand your catchment. So, for instance, with a gluten-free daughter, she'll travel 20 miles to get gluten-free sourdough, Jason's or whatever it is, because the only shop that sells it. Equally, take your product to them if they won't come to you, in the sense of, can you hook on the back of some of these Deliveroo's, Uber Eats? Can you get into hotels? Can you get into other shops with your branded area so that the awareness of your brand, you'll still have the destination to your whole store, but get your products wider?
All right, this is absolute gold. Thank you. I'm tempted, unless you've got another tip, Amy.
I think we've kind of covered what
Brilliant.
I'd say.
Let's take a final question or two. How about right in the front row? Thank you.
Hi, I run a hybrid hobby shop and have embraced unified commerce. Do you feel as though physical stores should earn their place online too, or is it a distraction? For example, acting as mini fulfillment centres, content hubs to view social media, Q-commerce and TikTok shop.
Brilliant. What's your shop called? What's your store and where is it, sir?
Phillips Hobbies, it's in Cambridgeshire.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Good question. Daniel?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think there's no doubt that you need to have the way you're doing it. I think is absolutely right. But the store is like an advert, and it's very different now because our store teams aren't just selling; they're taking returns, they're doing click and collect. So I think we need to think in terms of omni-channel. How can you give a consistent, special service that covers all aspects? We find, for example, where we've got a store, our e-commerce sales go up by 20%. So having the store does have value.
Right.
And I think it's really important that you look at that and see how you can monitor that and grow your sales through the store.
Right. So if we're to turn away, final question, if we're to turn away from this sort of dystopian vision of the boarded up high street of the future, if we are to inject vitality and life back into it, what are the essential ingredients going to be? And I'm going to ask you each for a closing thought on that. You can be as blunt, as provocative as you like. And we always like something to go into a coffee break with a bit of food for thought. And Mike, you haven't let me down so far in Elite Business Life.
Well, look, you hear things like your network is your net worth, and events like this, we get out to meet people. I'm a director of Chamber of Commerce, so I'm very biased towards them. But Chamber is a place where for £1 a day you can become a member, but you'll get to meet the politicians, the councillors, the big businesses, the small businesses, and so on. It needs to be joined up if you're going to influence those people. Waiting for it to come to you, waiting for it to be fixed, ain't happening.
Right, love that. Daniel, what do we need more of if we're going to see the rebirth, if you like?
I think you need more of an emotional attachment to brands. I think people feel that, and I think if they feel that, then they will visit your store because the experience, the overall experience is special. So I think that, for me, is absolutely crucial. And it's the differentiator now. It's not just a transactional thing. It's about really relating to that brand, and I think that's about all the marketing you do, it's about the service you give, it's about the product, it's the whole package. And that package really now, in such a competitive environment, really needs to appeal to the consumer.
Yeah, definitely most sense of what you've created in June, so thank you. And thank you for doing this today. Jackie?
Well, I think for me, I'm very much a brand person, so I concur obviously with Daniel. First of all, know who you are. What are you offering? Be very clear about what your offer is, what your brand stands for. Keep delivering on those values. When I was at Topshop Top Man, it was 16 and now. Everything we did was being about 16 years old and having it today. We had 40 and 50-year-old customers, women coming in buying shoes and belts and handbags, but that target, know that target customer, keep delivering into that. Make sure you've got great product. Don't try and sell commodity. Make sure there's no friction in your service offer, and keep customers happy, and make sure you've got everything in place to keep those customers happy, and listen to them and hear what they're saying and respond.
Yeah, superb advice. Thank you. Arjun.
I think to echo Daniel, the high street has to be more than just a transactional marketplace. Gymshark, in my opinion, is leading the way in that regard. So they'll have a store and it's beautifully designed, and they have athletes in there that are doing their own events. They'll have run clubs that are hosted from their store. They'll have Pilates events on the weekend where they're able to clear the racks and actually create a gym floor mat. And that's creating that emotional connection to their brand. And it's not all focused on, oh, if we clear the shelves and do this event, we're going to have an hour less floor time. It's about the wider impact and giving consumers moments of association with their brand. And that's what I think the high street needs to do more of.
I love that thought of moments of association. Thank you. A final thought, Amy.
I agree. I think it's about retail being intentional. Like it has to offer something that online can't, because you've got the convenience and you've got far greater scale online. You've got access to far more people than you have on a high street. So it's got to offer something new and something different, whether that's experiences or product demonstrations or whatever that looks like. It's got to offer something more. And I think it's also got to be supported by that online. You know, the retailers that we see that aren't here anymore, they haven't been able to pivot and they haven't been able to support their retail with the online presence as well. They go hand in hand.
So, Amy, I'm going to make an imaginary prediction.
Okay.
A couple of years' time, you and I meet face to face in a physical retail must-have ideas space.
It would be great.
It would be great. Of course it would be great. I turn to you and I say, Amy, you did it. You opened it. Why? What do you think you'd say?
I think if we were to have a retail store, it would be about product demonstrations. Like, that's what it's about online for us. It's about demonstrating products and just nailing those demonstrations. So it would be able to do that face-to-face with customers, answer their questions about products, reassure them about pain points and, you know, potential kind of points of friction. So that would be what it would be like a QVC in a store.
We'll have a coffee bar as well.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, we can all be having...
We'd have all the cleaning products.
We'd have all the cleaning products. Well, thank you for wiping the floor with the competition today. All 5 of you are absolute knockout, in my opinion. Thank you very much indeed. Brilliant. Thank you.